Call the Monday, February 14th, 2021 regular business meeting of the Lee County Board of Education to order. At this time, I will give the invocation. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for those gathered in this place. We come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion that allows us to make those decisions which guide our students toward a bright and healthy future. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
On behalf of the board, we would like to welcome you to tonight's meeting. And as always, we are grateful for those who are here and will participate in tonight's meeting. You have tonight's agenda before you, and if there are no adjustments, we can adopt by consent. Okay, the first item we have is resolution, and on behalf of the Lee County Board of Education, Dr. Miller has a special presentation. Mr. Griffin and Dr. Miller.
I want to read something to everyone first, if I may, and then I'll read the proclamation and we'll present that to Mr. Griffin. Frank, we'll present it to Frank. The Lee County Board of Education offices are located in a former elementary classroom building. The Board of Education meets in a room that was once Miss Walker's second grade class. One of Miss Walker's former second graders is William F. Frank Griffin Jr. Frank Griffin went from having class to leading the school board in the very same room where he was a student. J. Oswald Sanders said, "True leadership is an internal quality of the spirit and needs no show of external force." Frank Griffin is such a leader. This is evident in his family, his church, his business, and this school system. Frank resigned from his position on the Lee County Board of Education this past December in order to be appointed to the State Board of Education by Governor Brian Kemp. For 17 years, Frank faithfully served as a voice of reason and strong advocate of team governments on the Lee County Board of Education. Board governance is critical to the operation of schools and vital to the success of students. Frank's influence as part of a team of board members committed to the success of children made an indelible mark on Lee County schools. The school board has long enjoyed stability and strength, and Frank did much to contribute to both during his tenure. Frank's leadership transcended his Lee County Board responsibilities, influencing not only this community but also the state. His service as a local board member allowed him the opportunity to be a key leader in the Georgia School Board Association, thus influencing school board members across Georgia. Frank is a past president of the Georgia School Board Association, past chairman and vice chairman of the Lee County Board of Education, and now represents Southwest Georgia on the State Board of Education. Whether talking with a parent, an educator, or legislator, or the governor, he has worked to keep our schools and this community moving forward. John Maxwell says, "Real leadership is being the kind of person others will gladly follow." That is the kind of person Frank Griffin is. Lee County schools are the better for Mrs. Walker's second grader who went from the classroom to the boardroom, and we look forward to Frank's continued leadership at the state level. And if you may, I want to read this proclamation, and we'll ask Frank to stand, and that'll be I think we should all give him a round of applause at the conclusion of this. One more document. Resolution. Whereas from January 1st, 2005 through December 3rd, 2021, Frank Griffin served on the Lee County Board of Education. And whereas Mr. Griffin's 17 years of service were fulfilled with devotion to his duties as a school board member, unwavering support for students and staff, and a strong commitment to excellence in all endeavors. Whereas he has relinquished his responsibilities as a member of the Lee County Board of Education upon his appointment to the Georgia Board of Education. Be it resolved that this board expresses sincere appreciation to Mr. Griffin for his conscientious service to the school system, the students, the community, and the state he served. And be it further resolved that success and happiness be with Mr. Griffin in his future endeavors. And be it resolved that a copy of this resolution be placed in the official minutes of this board, and that a copy be presented to Mr. Griffin. Frank?
briefly.
Yes.
Thank y'all very much. I appreciate this recognition. I will say this, I said it many times sitting up here, and I've said it in many places. Serving on the Lee County Board of Education was the easiest job I ever had. And the reason is because of all of these folks. When these folks are doing their job to the best of their ability, and the board allows them to do their job with the experience and the expertise you have, it makes the folks sitting at this table look really good. That's why I say this service, from my perspective, was easy because of the leadership we have in the system that works hand in hand as a governance team to make it work for our kids and for the future of this county and for our state. So thank you for letting me do that for 17 years. Okay. Thank y'all.
Next, we have a presentation from Ms. Patsy Shirley on behalf of Denver Connections.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. As the school system serves as our fiscal agent for our Family Connection grant, I like to come along a couple times a year and kind of give you some updates. Hopefully you received in your agenda packet a flyer that looks like this. I have some extra copies in the back if anyone needs one. These are just updated numbers of what we've accomplished from beginning of our fiscal year of July 1 to December 31st. You know, we are the liaison for the Backpack Blessings program, which we've been doing for about 10 years now in the school system. And from the beginning of the school year till December 31st, we delivered 1,633 bags of Backpack Blessings to kids K through 5th grade in our system. We had our Backpack Blessings Christmas store in December, and many of the people sitting in this room contributed their generosity by adopting kids and purchasing gifts. We served 44 families, all part of Backpack Blessings in that store. That was 132 children. So that equated to 396 gifts for those children to be under their trees on Christmas morning. 132 pairs of pajamas, 132 stockings filled with goodies, 132 new books from the retired educators, 132 bags of school supplies, 44 bags of groceries, 44 family gifts. We had over 70 volunteers that helped over the 3-day process, and over 100 community partners that contributed either by adopting and purchasing gifts for our kids or making financial contributions and or volunteering. So I appreciate that from our community. Our literacy intervention, our Literate Lee program, Books for Kids, is something that our retired educators partner with us on. Of course, they've not been in the schools as much this year. I think they're back in now, where they go in once a month and meet with our Backpack Blessing children in a focused book club, and they have distributed either face-to-face or in sending home with the students through the schools 611 books from beginning of school year to December 31st. We have our family literacy nights that are back up and running on a small scale. We had to take a hiatus during COVID. We had 2 programs from the beginning of the school and through December. We've served 8 families, which is 35 children. That is an event we partner with the library on Friday nights. They come to the library, we do dinner, family style dinner, and then we have high school students that are teachers as profession students who develop a curriculum, and they come and do a lesson plan, and they sit with the kids in age groups and do a literacy instruction, and then we work with the parents on different things to help them, to become better parents. So we're very pleased with that. Our youth leadership development strategy, I'm very excited about. We've been working, there's 6 community partners, so the school system is one of our partners. The city, the county, the chamber, and the library and Family Connection. We received a grant, an in-kind grant from the Fanning Institute, and we've been working alongside our mentor there to develop a Lee County Junior Leadership Academy. This will be a program that will implement in the fall of 2022. We'll be focusing on 8th grade students that'll go through the academy. We'll select 15 from each campus, 30 for the year. We will be garnering community leaders to come in and go through the training. We're going to, Fanning's coming down to facilitate a train the trainer, so that we will have a group of leaders that can help us deliver that curriculum to the students every year. We'll also have a mentoring component that will come alongside. Once the kids graduate the program at the end of 8th grade, once they hit 9th grade through 12th grade, they'll be considered a junior ambassador. We'll continue to work alongside them, and at that point we'll partner them with a mentor in the community who hopefully is in a field of their career aspirations, so that you can mentor them and let them shadow you and help them, figure out that road to that career. So we're very excited about that. When we get full capacity, it'll be about 150 kids a year. So we're very excited about that program. And I do want to share with you guys, I have been diving deep into a book called What Happened to You. I recommend it for every school person. It's written by Dr. Bruce Perry. He's a neuroscientist, and he partnered with Oprah Winfrey on this because, she has had a lot of trauma in her life, and it's conversations on trauma, resilience, and healing. And one of our goals in Family Connection is to bring Lee County to become a trauma-informed community, and that will entail trainings for all of us about how to identify trauma and how to help our children be resilient. And so my first start is reading this book, and I've been fortunate enough to sit in on several book clubs, and one with the author, with Dr. Perry. And most of the people on that call were social workers, school teachers. That was kind of a targeted group. And so a lot of people, when people ask me, what is Family Connection? It is one of the most difficult concepts to explain. But but Georgia Family Connection, we're in year 30, so we've been doing this for 30 years. And some of you may not know, but there's a Family Connection in every county. All 159 counties has a Family Connection. We all work differently as all local decisions. I work for a board of directors here in Lee County. So a lot of times I sit back and reflect. You always want to reflect and say, am I doing the best I can? Is what I'm doing making a difference? How can I improve? And so I sit and think a lot, and then I think about some of the moms that came through our Christmas store who on Christmas morning, their kids are going to wake up with gifts under the tree that mom really couldn't afford. Mom bought the gifts. She paid $5 a child to buy those gifts, but they walk out the door with $200 or $300 worth of gifts. But those kids know mom doesn't have the money to buy those gifts. Now, some of those families I only see one time a year. We give them bags every week with food in it, but I don't see the kids, I don't see the parents. Then I think about our book clubs, and when these teachers or retired teachers are handing a book to a kid, is that really making an impact? When our family literacy nights, is that making an impact? And so in this conversation with Dr. Perry, this kind of came up, is what we're doing making a difference? If we're only touching families once or twice a year, directly touching, like seeing them in person, is that really making a difference? And this is what he said to me. He said, little moments are incredibly powerful. Nobody is powerless. Your brief interaction with these families and children could change the trajectory of their lives. You never know where a person's inflection point will be. It could be the moment you look them in the eye as they tell you their story. It could be the moment you put that book in their hand. It could be the moment they realize that you are a safe place for them. Yes, you are making an impact, so keep doing what you are doing. So I say that to say thank you to you guys to allow me to keep doing what I'm doing by being my fiscal agent and supporting the work of Family Connection and partnering with us on all of our programs. So, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, we have the financial presentation for the December 2021 reports. You've had the opportunity to review the December 2022 2021 financials, which are included in your board package. Is there a motion for approval of these financial reports?
I'll make a motion we approve.
Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, are there any discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, next are approval of our board minutes. And I will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of the January 10th, 2022 regular meeting and the January 20th, 2022 call meeting. And the board package has those minutes for your review. Is there a motion for approval of these minutes?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussions or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, you have tonight's consent agenda before you, Dr. Miller.
The consent agenda is routine for this time of year. There are, for your consideration, 25 recommendations for employment, 7 reassignments, 15 resignations, 9 retirements, 1 correction to a previous agenda, 7 out-of-state or overnight trips, 13 fundraisers, and 1 facility use request.
Is there a motion for approval of tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll say.
Are there any discussion or questions on tonight's consent agenda? We have a motion and a second, and I'm going to abstain given my child is on tonight's consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4 with 1 abstention. And now we will go through the superintendent's reports.
The reports begin with SPLOST. SPLOST collections for January came in at $490,902. That's the highest total ever for a single month. Very, very pleased with that. Moving right along to student health services. You can see the nurses report. As you can see in the reports, there were 3,515 clinic visits in January. If you look at the percentage back to class, which is closer to the bottom, I don't know if you can read it out there, but if you look at that, you will see an average of 79% of the students went back to class. This average is usually much higher and is an indication of the impact of the surge we experienced during the month of January. I'm glad to say that as of this morning, we only had 32 cases of COVID in the school system. Just a few weeks ago, we had more than 350 cases. So the numbers are, for the community and the school system, are looking much better, and we're thankful for that. Food service report. School food service served 92,823 meals last month. Next month, we will have a state school nutrition audit. I'm confident that Mrs. Regina Dunn and her team will have us ready, and we will do well as we normally do. But that's coming up in March. Under transportation, you can see the bullet points there. Our transportation department, bus drivers and riders recently completed PBIS training with Kathy Wooten from Southwest Georgia RESA. I was able to go over and be part of some of that meeting. It went very well. There's an upcoming CPR class that's available to our drivers to be certified in this important life-saving training. Also want to encourage parents to download the Busware app. That app allows you to, on your cell phone, you can go to our website and find the app. You can download it, and you can track where your child is on their school bus ride to and from school every day. It's a really very nice feature that's available for our parents. Plant operations. And you have a PowerPoint there. You can see some of the painting and schematics over at Lee County Middle School East. Plant operations have been maintaining our schools and school grounds with excellence. This includes painting, installations, like the technology you see in this room. These panels were installed during the last month, and they do an excellent job, and very pleased with all that they do to keep our schools going and looking good and taking care of our students. Next, we'll talk about technology. It is a very brief report. I wasn't kidding. We have been focused on the installation of touch panels in our classrooms. The feedback I've gotten has been great from teachers and students. They are really enjoying these devices. The training is ongoing, and we are very excited to have this capability. These are panels that look similar to what you see here, but they're mounted on the walls, and the students can interact with them. Teachers have all kinds of capability to use them for instructional purposes, and they can help with grading. It's really amazing what all they can do. So we're very thankful for that technology. That most of that was paid for by American Rescue Plan and ESSA funding. So we're very thankful for that. And finally, we have the audit of the principal accounts. Gary Kelly is a former state auditor. One of his responsibilities is to conduct an internal audit of school activity accounts each year. According to Mr. Kelly, this is the best review he has ever performed for school activity accounts, with there being no findings. Now that's since, what year was that, Gary?
97.
97. So that's really good. Congratulations, principals. Thank you for your leadership in that area. And while we're speaking of audits, I would be remiss if I did not say that we recently completed our state audit for the school system. We had the best possible rating on that audit, and a lot of credit goes to Gary Kelly and the people who work with him in the school finance department, and we're very thankful for that. That is a tradition of this school system, and appreciate your work here. Those are my reports.
Are there any further questions? At this time, we will enter the public participation portion of our meeting, and this is the time that the board invites members of the public to address the board on issues of concern. Tonight, we have one request to speak, and it is from Mr. Jamie Ojiva. Mr. Ojiva, would you like to come to the front, please?
Thank you for letting me speak. Obviously, this isn't something I usually do. I do name this 135 days, and I'll get back to, at the end of this, on why I named it 135 days. Tonight I'm here to talk about this board information that led to our children by our educators, in my opinion, and the opinions of Lee County, of most parents, being taken out of classrooms and being masked by the Lee Board of Education. My goal tonight isn't to even sway or change anybody's opinions, but to put everybody, on notice that my voice here tonight will be other voices tomorrow. Everybody here on this board voted for this mask mandate, okay? I had a phone call earlier with Mr. Miller a while back that speak to me in volumes, okay, about people's character, about this, I say it's a diaper mandate, okay? My book, that's my opinion, and I have a right to my opinion. When it comes up about, having to go to court over this issue. And he had said something to the effect, well, you can go to court, that's fine, it's been already upheld. Okay, that's fine. To me, that's not very inspiring, okay? I'm sure people in power positions also told people that had the employee vaccine mandate that they went to court and got struck down. But we all know what happened in the Supreme Court. So, to me, that doesn't inspire young minds. That doesn't inspire. It didn't inspire me, it just made me more mad. What's misleading and false in my opinion? What's misleading and false is the time to quarantine on the website. On the COVID questions, it says 14 days. CDC and the Department of Health says 5 days. COVID protocol says a certain number of positive cases, next level. The information, to me, is also misleading. By the own CDC director says, because it can't account for false positive due to flu. Where does everybody think the flu has gone in the last 2 years? Do we think it just disappeared? Just went away? There's little codes. When someone gets a positive COVID test, and it's positive, and you have the flu, you also test positive for COVID. Number 86 or 89 on the COVID test, you test positive for COVID and the flu. Your account will also be positive if you had COVID in the last 90 days. So that true on the cases, that's not even accurate. And this is by the CDC director. So it's credible, it's not me, it's the CDC director. Also, this protocol that was put into effect, it had 0 parent input. It was an advisory board. The advisory board according to what I was told by Mr. Miller, didn't have anything to say from the parents. They were given a copy of it. They were told this is what it is. They didn't say they could add to it, subtract to it. So I guess it was an advisory board that could advise on it. To me, an advisory board is, you can say, have a say in it. So did anybody watch the Super Bowl last night? Okay, there's 70,000 people in the arena last night, 70,000 people. A lot of those people were the politicians that made us all wear masks. It made us all go out and get vaccines and said it was, you know, your patriotic duty to wear a mask because it stops the spread, okay? They're the ones in an auditorium, in a Super Bowl, okay? There's nothing more about, it's nothing more than a bunch of hypocrites. It's nothing more than control. If it was really about the mask, if it was really about the spread, then why didn't Lee County go out and buy everybody an N95 mask with all these funds that we got? If that was the case, if it was about masks, it was about the kids, then why didn't they go out and buy masks, N95 masks for every single child out there? If it was about the kids. N95 masks are the one that stops the spread, not these cloth masks or these surgical masks. They don't. You might as well be wearing nothing. I mean, it's the same thing as that's when someone's passing gas, saying the same thing. I mean, it's ridiculous. To me, putting a diaper on a child's face, it does nothing more than make someone feel well, nice and powerful. To me, it makes people feel weak when you're gonna have kids mouth up with a diaper. It makes people feel weak. If vaccine worked, 85% of the Americans, well, if they work, then why doesn't it work? If it's all about masks, why isn't the staff always wearing masks then? If it works that well, and we say that kids have to wear masks to stop the spread, then if the masks are being worn by the staff, then why are they getting the COVID then? They shouldn't be getting COVID then. Because if the masks work, then they should be stop getting the spread then. The top of my topic was 135. 135 is 135 days of school so far. There's 135 warnings that I've had to tell my son to coax him to go to school. It's 135 nights that he's come home. Does he come every day crying? No. Do I have to coax him every day to go to school? No. But most days. That's 135 days that this school board has put a mandate or a procedure, whatever you want to call it, to get by the courts for these kids. Look at the politician. Stacey Abrams just got herself in a whole lot of hot water. Why? Because she had all the kids masked up while she wasn't. Okay? Whole bunch of hot water. Like I said, I'm not here to change your opinion, and I'm fine. You want to come after me? Go ahead, come after me. Just don't come after my boy. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move to discussion and action items. The first item up is the appointment of a construction management firm.
The RFP for construction management services for Lee County Primary School project resulted in 3 bids. A committee reviewed the bids along with the architect, Greg Smith of Buckley and Associates. The committee recommendation to the board is that JCI be approved as construction manager. Greg Smith is here to answer any questions concerning the construction management bid process that the board may have. Greg?
Good evening.
Good evening.
As Dr. Miller said, about 60 days ago, so we put out an RFP, a request for proposals for construction management firms. In that request, we dictated what criteria had to be met, what criteria the board considered critical for the selection of that firm. And there were basically 10 items that we had on there. We had 4 firms that expressed interest. 3 of them submitted proposals. And this was advertised for a 30-day period on the state procurement side as required by law. The committee met, we reviewed those proposals, and we ranked them based upon what they submitted. And I think each of you may have a copy of this, and this is the ranking sheet. It lists each item, it lists the points assigned to each item, and the scores given to each firm based upon what they submitted. The high score was JCI at 95 points, where the others were 92 and 81. So pretty good difference on it. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the process, about the fees, or anything else that you have any questions about regarding selection.
Greg, would you say a word about the follow-up meeting we had?
Be happy to. If you look at the original proposals, the breakdown on here, you'll see on line item 9, which is the fee proposal. And on that, JCI was at 15, LRA was at 10, and TQ was at 20. The difference was based upon their fee as they submitted it. JCI's fee was 11.95%, LRA's was at 12, and TQ was at 10.75. So we scored them accordingly. So that was actually taken into the scoring process. One of the items that we requested this time was we requested that each of these proposers submit a detailed breakdown attached to the proposal based upon what I have in that RFP, indicating what the cost for each activity was for as they went through the process. Everything from trailers to insurance to their project manager to their estimator. We had a line item, probably about 50 line items that they asked them to fill out. I did a spreadsheet and compared each of those. And when we took the low proposal and compared it to JCI's proposal and made them equal by taking out those items out of JCI's that the other proposal did not have, it allowed them to change their fee to 10.95% instead of that 11.95. So what we found was the proposals were not submitting on the same item. The low proposal did not include in his scope all of the work that we asked them to include. So when we did make it equal, the fees became very equal. So the difference, where the difference may have been about $400,000 initially, the difference right now is very small in terms of dollars.
Anything else?
I just want to say that I had the privilege to be involved with the process, the bid process, and, you know, all the groups submitted a great proposal. They wasn't all of them complete, but they did a really good job. And I mean, I was impressed with what we got, but there was some factors that we looked into, you know, with JCI that just kind of made them stand out above everybody else. And when we was able to, you know, get the value or the cost, you know, ultimately it boils down to money. And when we was able to get all the positives that they had, plus we was able to get the value real close, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. So I'm excited to have them. I think it's going to be a successful project.
Okay. Is there a motion to appoint JCI as the construction management firm that will oversee the renovations, modifications, and additions to the Lee County Primary School?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll
A
say.
second.
Any further discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? And the motion passes 5-0. Next,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
Next, we will approve calendar for the academic year 2022-2023.
Yes, Mr. Kevin Dowling chairs the calendar committee for Lee County Schools, and he's here today to share the committee's recommendation with the board. Mr. Dowling, would you mind saying a few words about the...
Sure. As we do every year about this time, we take a look at what the next several months to a year holds, any differences that there may be, and what our staff and community may want or not want as far as a calendar for next year. What we heard a vast majority of the time was don't mess with, basically if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, don't mess with with what we have this year. And I thought that this year was a very balanced, good calendar. And so they wanted something that stayed somewhat the same. There's always a few things here and there. You know, do we continue to take a full week of Thanksgiving? That's become something that's been, you know, we didn't used to do that back in the day, but that's since about 2009 or 10 or so we've done that, and that's very much desired. In December, we could have left a little bit later in December, but we actually sent that out as a survey to folks, and they really wanted the 3 weekends. If you could scroll down, can you scroll down just a little bit? There you go. We could have gotten out of school a little bit later in December, like around the 20th or so, but the vast majority said no, we really want the 3 weekends. If we have to come back a little bit early in January, then so be it. So there were two different there was basically came down to one major thing that was a difference of opinion, and it was pretty close as to that difference, and that was, you know, we enjoy usually taking a work day and a day off for students and our 190-day staff, and really everybody up to probably our 11 and 12 months don't, but most of the others get a day off in both February and March. And the proposal was to remove that day off in March and put it back in January so that we came back a day later in January instead of just on the 2nd. And we kind of just put that to a vote and asked our faculty and also asked our parents, and the faculty came back, I believe it was like 53 to 47, it was about 198 to 175 as far as votes. And then parents from our two parent committee members, they came back with about, one of them said 79% of the folks she polled wanted to keep that March little mini break, what we call it, micro break, whatnot. So we ended up with calendar A. That was the option that was preferred by both faculty, staff members, and the parents who were polled out in the community. So what we submit to the board is option A.
We have a recommendation for calendar A for the 2022-2023 year. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Sure.
All right, are there any further discussion or questions on the calendars?
Mr. Dowling, I have some concerns. And I think I did read your narrative. I do realize, is this the third year that we have done, or the second year we've done 178?
This will be the third. I think we've done it for 2 years now.
Okay, this will be the third year.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up the Georgia Code, which is 160-5-1-02. The definition is a minimum of 180 days or its equivalent. I guess I have extensive concern about the number of days that the students have missed at this point as a result of closing the schools, or, students not being able to go virtually because of their location in the county, and students that have been out, whether they had the COVID or they were exposed to the COVID, it kind of goes on. And I'm thinking, honestly, there's a point where I'm thinking we need to extend the school year rather than to reduce those 2 days. And just looking at some of the figures for it, K through 5 does 270 minutes, just for everybody's knowledge. And if you looked at the 2 days, which would be 540 minutes of instruction those students would be losing. And then we also have 2 half-days off, which would add another 540. I mean, you've got over 1,000 minutes these kids are actually losing instruction as a result of either the half-days or the reduction from 180 to 178 school days. And then that continues in the middle school and the high school, where students are losing, an amount of time as a result of the reduction and the 2 half-days. And I'm really concerned about that. There is a paragraph in here where you've kind of mentioned the 2 extra work days go towards professional development, collaboration, or organization to enhance instruction for students. These days can also be used for makeup days in case of temporary shuts-down for inclement weather, widespread illness. Basically covered in this Georgia code. This kind of seems like to me that we're kind of hedging on that. We're saying something is going to happen, and as a result, we're going to take out these 2 days. What the code says, that's not what the code says. The code says that additional days otherwise needed, which are a result of inclement weather. And we're saying, you know, in this statement that you made, that we're going to put it towards those. They're saying if it happens, you know, you can reduce the number of days as a result of those conditions. And I really would understand that. We've gone through tornadoes, we've gone through floods, we've gone through hurricanes. I realize all of those issues exist. However, at the time we were doing the calendar, we had no idea that we were going to be going through all of those events. And we scheduled 180 days. You know, it's a concern because, you know, these children need to be in school the maximum amount of time. We could use the 2 extra days for work days. I feel like the professional learning communities that our teachers do after school, you know, that is a lot of time that they can spend either reflecting or looking at data or, you know, coming up with ideas, you know, as far as instruction for, you know, the coming weeks, the coming months. I feel like there has been put in place, you know, additional time for the teachers to work together to make all those decisions. My focus is the children. You know, I don't want to take these days away from the children. And we have done this, and while before we were going through some incredible events that, you know, that there was also a level on my part of forgiveness for dropping to the 178 days, but we're back. And I feel like we need to go back to the 180 days and give the students the maximum amount of time with the teacher in the classroom.
Well, I'll explain it this way. We're not alone in going less than 180 days. There are several other systems that actually go down to 176, 174 days. As far as 178 or 180, I mean, that's, if it's the will of the board as a group that we go 180 days, and we can go back and we can redo the calendar, but that's going to be up to the board to decide. I mean, you know, what we've done the last few years was 178 days, and I was under the understanding that that was one thing that was just going to continue, that we were going to continue with 178 days. So, but if that's the will of the board to go back to it, then that's fine. I can tell you that the extra work days, the extra professional development, we have to remember as well that we have teachers that are struggling mightily to make it through the days that they have. And those extra work days, believe me, as a husband of a teacher, they are professionally learning. When my wife is up till 11 and 12 at night grading papers, you know, the professional development is greatly needed for them. The work days are greatly needed for them as well. And you can say 180 days for students, 178 days for students. My personal, and this is Kevin now, this is not assistant superintendent, but my personal opinion is with 178 days, you have teachers that are more efficient, more effective than they are in 180 days. So what's the trade-off there? Again, that's something that the board's going to have to decide. If the board decides to go to 180 days, then we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll have something for you in March. If the board wants to stay with this, then you can approve it and we'll go forward. So.
And you will remember, Ms. Ford, we have a strategic waiver from the state that allows us to waive the 180-day requirement. And the genesis of this was that we wanted to put time back into professional development, collaboration with our teachers. Our teachers in K-5 have one planning period. The PLCs occur during that planning period, correct? K-5 principals. And so this is more time given back to them, in particular at K-5 level, for the planning and collaboration. Also, we've been asked, since I've been in this role, we've had the teachers ask for days where they could do conferencing, and that's part of the use of this time. So it's very beneficial for the academic. We feel like the investment of the additional time for the teachers will pay off in the time we do have the students.
Do we have a way to monitor that, assess that? If there are 2 more days makes them more efficient?
I'm sure we could look at test scores and things like that, but, you know, the problem with that is, of course, what Ms. Ford alluded to with the pandemic. But we can
Because I mean, the
certainly
last 2 of the
evaluate.
3, we haven't been 180 days period. I mean, we haven't been 178 days, right?
Right. The first year we were doing 178 was 1920.
Right.
Pandemic, and of course we lost March, April, and May that year. And Ms. Ford does make a good point. There has been a lot of time out of school when you think about March, April, and May of 20, and then we had a school shut down in the fall of 20, and then another one in the January 21, and then another one this fall. Only a week, but nonetheless, that, you know, those add up. In addition to what Ms. Ford alluded to with the quarantine situation, where some kids have been quarantined as many as 5 times. So that's a lot of days. But even in light of that, we feel like this is an investment in our teachers, and that investment is going to pay dividends in the instruction and the quality of the planning. 6 through 12, all those, they have 2 planning periods. And that does not happen in K-5. So this is one way we can provide some more time for collaboration and support for them. And as Mr. Dowling said, there are several school districts doing this already. It's becoming, you know, fairly common.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second for calendar A. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 4-1. The next item will be request for permission to sell surplus equipment. Dr. Miller.
Selling surplus items requires board approval. You have a list of assorted equipment, including food service items, furniture. There's 2 pianos, a kiln, 2 tractors, and an old truck. We would like the board's permission to sell these items.
Is there a motion to approve a sale of these surplus items as listed in your board package?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any further discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And the final discussion and action item is request approval to purchase 4 school buses. Dr. Miller.
We would like to purchase 4 new school buses. We have we have $386,100 in state funding for this purpose. In the memo, you have a copy of the bids for both Bluebird and Thomas buses. Our recommendation to the board is that we purchase the 4 Thomas buses for a cost of $472,616. I will note that we usually have in the past bought Bluebird, but will you say a word about it, Mr. Kelly, about why the choice we're
Well,
making?
the amounts, there was a significant amount of difference in about 10,000 bucks, but the difference is the warranty. On the Thomas, the Yancey buses, they gave a 10-year warranty. On the others, Thomas gives a 5-year. And Kevin and I met with the transportation director and basically said, do you think we do $10,000 worth of repair work on those vehicles in year 6 through 10? And they did not. So that was the reason we went with the lower bid.
Who has the 10-year warranty?
Yancey Bluebird.
Yancey's a distributor.
How many Thomas buses do you have?
Not nearly as many as Bluebird, but I mean, we have bought them in the past.
Is there a significant difference in like engines and anything like that?
No, they're pretty much built the same.
I know that we wouldn't be asking for permission to purchase if we didn't really need the buses. But I know that right now is not a great time to purchase anything like buses or is this an item that we have to spend the money on for this year or?
Well, this state funding has been set aside for that purpose, and I think there's gonna be more
I think we
funding.
have 3 years to spend it, and we've already had, this will be year 2 of that.
Right.
But
And
the
we're about.
bus prices are pretty, when we started adding the air to them, I mean, they're in line with what we've been paying in the past. I mean, so I don't see the big increase on the bus purchase. It's cost, but
And we're gonna, I think
Yeah, like
in the
5 years
current
ago.
budget, there's gonna be, it's not gone through the legislature yet, but I think there's gonna be additional funding for buses. And what we do, we rotate out those older ones. I always look at the numbers, you know, and when you see that number, that first 2 numbers, it tells you when it went into service. And so, you know, we don't, we wanna rotate those older ones out and use them as sub buses or extra buses, and we surplus, just like we surplus some of that equipment. And the people who a lot of farmers, you know, will buy those.
the replacement cycle on the bus should be about 10 years. But when we went into that SPOS and replaced 45 buses, we had buses 20 years old. So, I mean, we get 70 buses, so we'd really need to be doing 7 a year. But I'm hoping in a future SPOS that those buses will last, and that's what we've had to do. So, about 4 or 5 years ago, when we were buying buses without air, there was about 115, and this is about 10,000 more. So, I mean, to me, it's about a normal increase on the vehicle cost.
What about lead time? Are they both about
Yeah,
comparable?
there's a lead time. It's probably 3 months.
Both of them were.
Similar. I say that, they may have some on the line, I don't know, but I mean, it has been a lead time of about 3 months.
Is there a motion to approve purchase of the 4 school buses as listed in the board package from Thomas Built Buses?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Sure.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And the motion passes 5-0. And with that, thank you to everyone for attending, and if there's no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Second? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.